What's up, everyone? I am Jason C, and today on the Mash and Drum, we have something very unique from one of the biggest voices in bourbon today. From the creators of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, this is Pursuit United. Why United? Because it contains 3 different mash bills from 3 different states that are united to craft this small batch bourbon. Let's learn more and give it a try today on the Mash and Drum. So if you don't know them already, Ryan, Cecil, and Kenny Coleman are the founders and personalities behind the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Now, the self-proclaimed official podcast of bourbon features news, reviews, and interviews with people making the bourbon whiskey industry happen. Personally, I love their podcast because it gives you a chance to listen to the stories behind your favorite brands, which you guys know I love, but also industry insiders, distillers, authors, blenders, bloggers, and more all dedicated to the American native spirit, which is bourbon. So with a respected podcast and names in the industry, Kenny and Ryan started doing barrel picks that ended up selling very fast. They wanted to find a way to offer more single barrel picks to their audience, and they soon partnered with a liquor store and started a single barrel program exclusively for their Patreon supporters. In fact, it was going so well that things moved along pretty fast, and then they had a concept, they had a label, they had a name, and they called it Pursuit Spirits. So in 2018, the Pursuit series was born, featuring hand-selected barrels by the Bourbon Pursuit team that are bottled and completely untouched, no water added, non-chill filtered, and pure as pure can be. Every barrel chosen was unique, developing its own narrative that becomes an episode in the series. Now, they started with episode 1, and they've gone to bottle over 35 different episodes with different flavor profiles, finishes, and mash bills. And while becoming a successful non-distilling producer was challenging, Ryan and Kenny were ready for the next step in the Pursuit series evolution. So earlier this year, on January 4th, 2021, the Pursuit Spirits announced their newest venture and line extension to their brand called Pursuit United. Now, this project took over a year to complete because this isn't just about walking to a warehouse and picking a single barrel. This is a blend of mash bills from, like I said, 3 different distilleries in 3 different states. Basically, the guys had to form partnerships with distilleries they can source from as they build the brand in the future while maintaining the consistent flavor profile for future releases that they want. It's no easy feat, but as I mentioned, it took over a year to create, and here it is. So what's exactly in this bottle? All right, so this is a blend of mash bills from 3 different distilleries. As I mentioned, the bourbon barrels ranges from an age of 4 to 5 years old. So let's get a pour here. So the first component in this is a Kentucky bourbon from Bardstown Bourbon Company using a bourbon mash bill that supposedly delivers prominent notes of caramel and maple. The second partnership is with Finger Lakes Distilling in my old hometown, New York, utilizing their award-winning wheated mash bill to provide more vibrant fruit notes. And the final component supplies deep and rich character with sweet oak influence coming from an undisclosed distillery in Tennessee that is not located in Tullahoma. So what does that mean? There is no George Dickel whiskey in this blend. It's bottled at 108 proof, it's non-chill filtered, retails for about $65. The first release is limited to only 2,250 bottles. That's available online at sealbox.com and select retail locations in Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Texas. A second release of about 8,000 bottles will be available in March of this year, with more to follow. All right, guys, let's give this one a go. I gotta say, I love the nose on this bourbon. It's just so caramel and honey forward, and then on top of that, it's laced with just a lot of rich fruit character. Usually younger bourbons, I pick up usually an apple or a very bright cherry note. I'm definitely getting that apple component in here. There's a very subtle cinnamon characteristic. Yeah, like caramel apple, like a slight hint of nuttiness there too. As this sits in the glass, way more orange is starting to come forward too. Like an orange spice. Just a wonderful nose. I mean, you have this beautiful combination of caramel, honey, apple, maybe the slightest hint of milk chocolate. A little bit of spice there too, a little cinnamon. You definitely get some oak, but it's not really coming to the forefront because it's so sweet and inviting and fruit forward on the nose. Yeah, I mean, the nose is damn nice. All right, let's go for a sip. Wow, it's got something really different on the finish there. That tastes familiar. What is that? That's gonna make me crazy.
Well, we're waiting.
Let's go for one more sip. Well, a few more sips. All right, I think I got it. When I'm not feeling well, I'll usually have this orange ginger tea, and that's what I'm getting on the palate here a little bit. But up front, before you get to the orange ginger tea note, there's a ton of just caramel and honey right up front. Then as it works its way to the mid palate, you start getting the spice, you start getting the apple notes come through, that fruit characteristic from the wheated bourbon. Yeah, then all of a sudden, that wave of chocolate just kind of hits as well with that citrus honey tea. Kind of liking that one. And it seems on the nose, it's getting way more citrus-like, way more, now that I've made that connection with the orange and honey tea, and now that's all I smell in the glass here. It's pretty remarkable when your brain makes that connection, and then you could just start. That's why, man, when you guys want to, get better at tasting and nosing, your whiskeys, really just take the opportunity to smell and really taste and experience everything that's either, anything that you're drinking, anything you're eating, really take the time to sit with it and figure out what's going on. And I'm telling you, eventually your connections with what you're eating and experiencing will end up coming out of your whiskey glass. Let's go for another sip. Yeah, the combination of flavors is different because usually, like for me, I'll get spice on the back end of the whiskey, but the spice for me is coming in the mid palate. Again, this is also 108 proof, non-chill filtered, getting a really nice, coating of flavors here. Front of the palate, you get that, again, more of it's way more honey up front. Get a lot of like honey, maybe like a little of a burnt toast characteristic with some fruit flavors there. Then as it works its way back, then the spice hits you. Really can feel it on the, kind of the sides of your tongue. And then as it works its way back, here comes just a big, huge wave of citrus, honey, maybe even some lemon, some chocolate too. Nice little cinnamon kick on the very back end as well. It's a nice blend. I gotta say, I wasn't really sure what to expect when I heard the components. One from Bardstown Bourbon Company, one from Finger Lakes Distilling, and then you have the undisclosed, Tennessee distillery, and you're kind of like wrapping your brain like, what could that be? I mean, you have Jack Daniels, of course you have Chattanooga, you have some other components that you could think of. I would maybe think Chattanooga, but also, they talk about in the the description that it's you get a lot of sweet oak flavor. Chattanooga is a relatively younger whiskey, but the honey component definitely reminds me of Chattanooga. So I'm not really sure where the Tennessee component is coming from. Could that be it? I don't know, but let's go for one last sip here. Yeah, it's getting sugary and sweet. The more you sip this, I love the proof point on this. Just gives you, it's not overpowering, but gives you some really nice flavors. The non-chill filtration really makes it kind of thick and rich. Gives it good viscosity on the palate as well. Caramelized sugars up front. Again, a little bit of a hint of citrus there. A lot of honey as it works its way back. Then the spices come in. You get hit with the, your typical vanillas, your baking spices, a little hint of cinnamon there. Some, again, a little bit more of that caramel apple, especially hits the mid palate to go along with those spices. Then on the back end, it is just pure citrus, honey, ginger tea with a nice little effervescent kind of lingering like spice in the back end. Really well done. This is a really nice blend. And again, this is something that we're seeing more and more with bourbon releases, with these brands coming out, just like Pursuit United here, doing interesting things with blends from different distilleries and different mash bills. All right, guys, so let's go to the final breakdown. The price for this is $65. Availability right now is limited. Remember, the first release of this is only 2,250 bottles. Available online at sealbox.com, so you can go check that out. I'll leave the link below. And also at select retail locations in Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Texas. Now, if anyone knows about the demand of the bourbon market right now, that would be Kenny and Ryan. So if it's limited now, I think it will get better over time. Remember, we will see 8,000 more bottles of this in March of 2021, with more to follow. When it comes to value, I think the value of this is even. I don't think it should be priced any higher. I do wish I would see it for a little bit lower as we go down the line, but you know, I know the challenges of definitely kicking off a brand new label for an NDP. So $65 for this right now, I think is a decent price. The most I'd pay for this is $65. I wouldn't pay any higher than that. But I'm hoping it does get a little bit cheaper as we go down the line, which gets me to my recommendation. So do I recommend this one? Yes. I actually really love this blend. I'll be honest, Ryan and Kenny sent me a media sample with no strings attached. He just said, hey, just try it, let us know what you think. I liked it so much, I bought a bottle. So I wanted to try a bottle and do a full review of it because I really do enjoy the flavors and the components that is in this bourbon. Now, when you look across the market today, you have a lot of NDPs coming up with just blending younger whiskeys and doing them really well. Brands like Penelope, brands like Smoke Wagon. You even have brands like Bardstown Bourbon Company, which are using their Fusion series where they're blending younger bourbons to make something more interesting. You even have some of the big guys doing blends with younger and older whiskey. We just saw Woodford Reserve did they incorporated a 17-year bourbon in a blend with some younger whiskey to make something full and rich. So there's a lot of blending that goes on in the whiskey industry, but it's the guys using younger whiskeys to make something more interesting that I think are really making their mark on the industry. Now, what I'm hoping for with this bottle is, I'll be honest, $65 I think is a lot to pay for the younger whiskey in here as we go down the line. But I think as more bottles come out, as maybe more revenue comes in, you know, hopefully the price will come down on this a little bit more, because if this was about a $40 to $50 bottle, I would have this on the shelf all the time. Like I said, I love the caramel, the honey, the citrus, the wave of chocolate, that tea aspect to it. This would become one of my daily sippers. So we'll see how it goes down the line. But when it comes to a great blend, my hat's off to the Bourbon Pursuit team. You guys nailed it with this one. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this review for the brand new Pursuit United from the Bourbon Pursuit podcast team. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you've had this, if you've tried it yet, if you got some of the same notes that I did. What are your thoughts on it? What do you see for the future? Again, big thank you to Kenny and Ryan for sending me that media sample, but I liked it so much I got a whole damn bottle. So cheers to you guys. Looking forward to more of these down the line. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. So cheers, and I'll see you next time on the Mash and Drum.